You are hanging. Your lungs are on fire. Every single breath requires you to push your entire body upward using feet that have been pierced through with iron nails. If you stop pushing, you suffocate slowly. If you keep pushing, the pain is beyond anything language can describe. There is no comfortable position. There is no way out. And the worst part,
It is
the
all
part
right,
that
brother.
nobody around you
We
can
will find
understand,
what you need.
is that you chose this. You knew this moment was coming. You watched it approach for weeks. And you didn't
Look at
run.
the colors on the water.
You didn't fight
It
back.
reminds us of the beauty in our
The
labor.
night before, alone
It is
in
a
a
fine
garden
day for
while
fishing.
blood seeped through your sweat glands from pure anguish, you said one thing to the dark sky above you: not my will, yours. This is the complete story of Jesus Christ, told the only way it deserves to be told, from the inside. So for the next 25 minutes, you are not watching him from a distance. You are him. You feel what he felt. You carry what he carried. And by the end, you will understand why 2,000 years later, more than 2 billion people on this planet still say his name every single day. Let's go back to the beginning. The world that received you. You are born into chaos. The year is somewhere around 6 BC. The Roman Empire controls everything, every road, every tax, every life.
Do not let
The region
fear
you are
guide
born
your
into,
hearts,
a
for
small
true strength
territory
is found
called
not in
Judea,
solitude,
is
in
governed
the
by a
unity
man
of our
named
people.
Herod the Great. And great here is not a compliment. Herod is brilliant, paranoid, and brutal. He murdered members of his own family when he suspected they threatened his power. He is not someone you want to be born near. And yet, here you are. Your mother is a young woman named Mary from the town of Nazareth, a place so unremarkable that people used it as an insult. Your father, Joseph, is a carpenter, a skilled tradesman, but nobody special by the world's standards. They are not traveling to Bethlehem for vacation. The Roman Empire has ordered a census, which means every family must return to their ancestral hometown to be counted and taxed. So Mary, who is 9 months pregnant, makes a journey of roughly 90 miles on the back of a donkey. You are born in Bethlehem, not in a house, not in a hospital, in a space shared with animals, because every room in the city is full. Your first bed is a feeding trough. But something strange happens almost immediately. Shepherds show up in the middle of the night, wide-eyed, saying they were told by an angel where to find you. Then, sometime later, a group of astronomers from the east, men who study the stars for a living, arrive in Jerusalem, asking about a child born to be king. This gets back to Herod. And Herod does what Herod always does when he feels threatened. He orders every boy under 2 years old in the Bethlehem region to be killed. Your family gets a warning just in time. Joseph has a dream. You flee to Egypt in the middle of the night, a refugee family crossing a border to survive. You stay there until Herod dies. Then you come back, and you settle in Nazareth, the town people use as a punchline. The world tried to erase you before you could walk. It failed. The boy who knew too much. Growing up in Nazareth is not glamorous. You work with your hands from the time you were old enough to hold a tool. Your father teaches you carpentry, cutting wood, shaping beams, building things meant to last. The town is small. The people are simple. Life follows a rhythm of work, prayer, and family. You attend the synagogue school where you memorize the Hebrew scriptures out loud, word by word, the way every Jewish boy does. You are, by every external measure, an ordinary child in an ordinary place. Except You are not. There is something you carry inside you that has no name yet. An awareness, a sense of purpose so deep, it feels like it was placed there before you were born. You don't talk about it much, but it is always there. When you are 12 years old, your family makes the annual pilgrimage to Jerusalem for Passover. It is a journey of about 70 miles, and families travel together in large groups for safety. Jerusalem at Passover is overwhelming. Tens of thousands of people flooding into the holy city, the temple gleaming in the sun, the air thick with the smell of incense and sacrifice. For a boy from Nazareth, it is like stepping into another world. And then your family leaves to go home, and you don't go with them for an entire day. Mary and Joseph assume you are somewhere in the traveling group, walking with cousins, with friends, with neighbors. It takes a full day before they realize you are not there. They turn around and walk all the way back to Jerusalem. For 3 days, they search for you. They find you in the temple, not lost, not crying, not looking for them. You are sitting in the middle of a group of the most learned religious teachers in Israel, and you are asking them questions and answering theirs. And Luke records that everyone who heard you was stunned by your understanding. These are men who have spent their entire lives studying Scripture. You were 12. When Mary finds you and asks why you stayed, your answer stops her cold. Didn't you know I had to be in my Father's house? It is the first time you say it out loud, the first indication recorded in history that you know exactly who you are. Then you go home with them, and for the next 18 years, you disappear from the record almost entirely. You work, you live quietly, you wait. Nobody knows exactly what happens during those years. What we know is what comes next, and what comes next changes everything. The river that lit the fire. You are around 30 years old. Your cousin John has become something remarkable. He lives in the desert, eats locusts and wild honey, wears clothes made of camel hair, and preaches by the Jordan River with a ferocity that draws crowds from all over the region. His message is simple and confrontational. Change your life. Be baptized, because something enormous is coming. People call him John the Baptist. The religious establishment thinks he is dangerous. The common people think he might be a prophet. You walk south from Galilee to find him. When John sees you approaching, something happens that he doesn't fully understand. He stops. He says he is the one who should be baptized by you, not the other way round. You insist. You go into the river together. And when you come up out of the water, the Gospels record something that witnesses described as a dove descending and a voice from the sky saying, "This is my Son, whom I love." The moment in the river is your public beginning. But before you can start, you go somewhere alone. The desert, 40 days, no food. Historians and physicians note that after approximately 40 days without food, the human body begins to consume itself. You would be skeletal, dehydrated, and at the absolute edge of physical survival. It is in this condition, broken down, emptied out, at your most vulnerable, that you face the hardest test of your life. 3 times, you are offered a way out. Turn stones into bread. Prove your power by throwing yourself off a cliff and letting angels catch you. Accept all the kingdoms of the world in exchange for one act of submission. 3 times you refuse, not because you can't, but because that is not why you are here. You come back from the desert, and you get to work. Fishermen, tax collectors, and a revolution. You don't recruit the way anyone expects. You don't go to the religious schools of Jerusalem. You don't approach the powerful families, the educated elite, the people with connections. You walk along the shore of the Sea of Galilee and you find fishermen pulling nets out of the water. You find a tax collector sitting at his booth, a man named Matthew, who is despised by his own community for working with the Roman occupiers, taking money from his own people. You find a political radical named Simon the Zealot, who wants Rome overthrown by force. You look at these people, this collection of rough, unlikely, complicated human beings, and you say two words: follow me. And they do. 12 men become your closest circle, but the crowds that follow you grow far beyond 12. Everywhere you go in Galilee, people come, because you don't just talk, you heal. A man with leprosy, a disease so feared that it forced people to live in total isolation, to call out, "Unclean, unclean," as they walked so others could avoid them. You touch him. You touch him when nobody else would, and he is healed. Word spreads the way only word of mouth can in a world without phones or newspapers, fast and unstoppable. Then one day, you walk up a hillside overlooking the Sea of Galilee, sit down, and begin to speak. What comes out of your mouth is so different from anything people have heard from religious teachers that the crowd goes completely silent. Love your enemies. Bless those who curse you. Do not store up treasures on earth. Do not worry about tomorrow. The poor in spirit are blessed. The merciful are blessed. The peacemakers are blessed. In a world built on power, conquest, and social hierarchy, you are describing an entirely different way of being human. Not just different, opposite. The crowds grow larger. And in the marble halls of Jerusalem, a group of powerful men begin to watch you very carefully. The man who did the impossible. Let's talk about what you actually do. A Roman military officer, a centurion, a man with real power and authority, comes to you on behalf of his servant who is paralyzed and suffering. He doesn't even ask you to come to his house. He says he knows you only need to say the word and his servant will be healed. You tell the people around you that you have not found faith this strong anywhere in Israel. The servant is healed from a distance. A woman who has been bleeding for 12 years and has spent every coin she has on doctors who couldn't help her reaches through a crowd and touches the edge of your clothing. She is immediately healed. You feel something go out from you. You stop. You turn around. You find her in the crowd. You don't shame her. You call her daughter. You are crossing the Sea of Galilee in a boat with your disciples when a storm hits. These are professional fishermen, men who have spent their lives on this water, and they are terrified. You are asleep. They wake you up in a panic. You stand up. You speak to the wind and the waves, and it stops. Immediately. The men in the boat look at each other and ask a question that echoes across 2,000 years. Who is this man? But nothing compares to what happens in Bethany. Your friend Lazarus is sick. By the time you arrive, he has been dead for 4 days. His sisters are devastated. The community is gathered in grief. You ask to be taken to the tomb. You look at it, and then, in front of everyone, you cry. The Son of God standing at a tomb, weeping for his friend, then you tell them to roll the stone away. You pray, and you call into the darkness, "Lazarus, come out." And he does. A man dead for 4 days walks out of his own tomb. The people who witness it are shaken to their core. Some of them run straight to the religious authorities in Jerusalem to report what happened. And that report triggers a meeting that seals your fate. The high priests and Pharisees gather in an emergency council. They don't debate whether the miracle happened. They debate what to do about you. Because the more people follow you, the more the delicate balance of their political arrangement with Rome is threatened. Their conclusion is cold and decisive. One man must die so that the whole nation doesn't fall apart. They begin making plans. The last week, you know what is coming. You have told your disciples 3 separate times, clearly and specifically, that you are going to Jerusalem, that you will be handed over to the authorities, that you will be killed, and that you will rise on the 3rd day. They don't understand it. They can't fit it into any framework they have. You enter Jerusalem on a Sunday. You are riding a donkey, which in the ancient world is a specific symbol. A king arriving in peace rather than on a war horse. The crowds line the road. They throw their cloaks on the ground. They wave palm branches. They shout. For one brief, luminous moment, the city receives you like a king. 4 days later, these same crowds will scream for your execution. But first, you go to the temple, and what you find there fills you with something that looks like rage. The outer courts, a space meant for prayer, meant to be a house for all people, have been turned into a marketplace. Money changers are running currency exchange booths at exploitative rates. Animals are being sold for sacrifice at inflated prices. The poor are being bled by the very institution that is supposed to serve them. You overturn the tables. You drive out the merchants. You quote the prophet Isaiah. My house shall be called a house of prayer. And then add your own words. But you have made it a den of robbers. The temple authorities are furious and afraid. On Thursday evening, you gather with your 12 disciples in an upper room for the Passover meal. This is the Last Supper. You know that within hours you will be arrested. You know that the man sitting at the table with you, Judas, has already accepted 30 pieces of silver to hand you over. You know that Peter, who swears he would die before he betrays you, will deny knowing you 3 times before sunrise. You know all of this, and you still wash their feet, every one of them, including Judas. Then you take bread and break it. You take wine and pour it. And you tell them to remember you this way. The garden, the betrayal, and the trials after the meal, you go to a garden called Gethsemane on the Mount of Olives. You ask your closest disciples, Peter, James, and John, to stay awake with you. Then you go a little further, alone, and you fall to the ground. What happens next is one of the most human moments in all of recorded history. The medical term for what your body does is hematidrosis. Under extreme psychological stress, the tiny capillaries around your sweat glands rupture. Blood mixes with sweat and seeps through the skin. Physicians who study this condition say it only appears in cases of the most severe emotional anguish imaginable. You pray, Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me. You are asking if there is another way. There isn't, and you know it. Nevertheless, not my will, but yours be done. When you come back to your disciples, they are asleep. Then Judas arrives, with soldiers, with torches, with weapons. He walks up to you and greets you with a kiss, the prearranged signal to identify you in the dark. You look at him and you ask, Judas, are you betraying the Son of Man with a kiss? You are arrested. Your disciples scatter into the night. What follows is a sequence of trials designed not to find truth, but to produce a predetermined outcome. You are brought before Caiaphas, the high priest, in the middle of the night, which itself violates Jewish law, which forbids trials at night. False witnesses are brought in. Their testimonies contradict each other. Caiaphas finally asks you directly, "Are you the Messiah, the Son of God?"
Wow. It's
You
the
say
biggest one
yes.
yet.
He tears his robes and calls it blasphemy. The council condemns you to death, but they don't have the authority to execute anyone. That belongs to Rome. So at dawn, they drag you to Pontius Pilate, the Roman governor. Pilate questions you and finds no crime. He tries to release you by offering the crowd a choice. There is a custom of releasing one prisoner at Passover. The crowd chooses a man named Barabbas, a convicted insurrectionist. Pilate caves. He orders you flogged and hands you over to be crucified. And then the real suffering begins. The cross. The word excruciating comes from the Latin excruciatus. It means literally out of the cross. Before crucifixion existed, there was no word severe enough for this level of pain. So they built the word around the experience. Before you are nailed to anything, you are flogged. Roman scourging is not a simple beating. The instrument used is called a flagrum, a whip with multiple leather straps, each embedded with small metal balls and sharp pieces of bone. You are tied to a post. Soldiers take turns. The metal balls bruise and break the skin. The bone fragments hook into flesh and tear it away. Physicians who have studied this process in clinical detail describe the skin of the back being reduced to long hanging strips. Blood loss is massive. Many people died from the flogging alone before ever reaching a cross. Pilate is reportedly surprised later that you die as quickly as you do, which tells us something about the severity of what was done to you before the nails. Then they mock you. They press a crown of thorns into your scalp. Thorns that medical researchers estimate were 2 to 3 inches long, driving into the scalp tissue, irritating the trigeminal nerves, producing shocks of pain with every movement of your head for the rest of the day. They hand you the crossbeam, the patibulum, which weighs approximately 110 pounds. You are already in hypovolemic shock. You carry it through the streets of Jerusalem for about a third of a mile before you collapse. A man named Simon of Cyrene is pulled from the crowd and forced to carry it the rest of the way. The place of execution is called Golgotha, the skull place. Nails are driven through your wrists, not your palms as paintings show, because the palms cannot support the weight of a body. The wrists, the median nerve, runs directly through the area where the nail passes. Physicians describe the sensation as an electric shock that never stops, shooting up both arms simultaneously. Your feet are nailed to the upright post, and then you are lifted up. Crucifixion kills through asphyxiation. Hanging by your arms makes it nearly impossible to exhale fully. To breathe, you must push yourself upward, using the nail in your feet. Every breath is a choice to inflict more pain on yourself. Every breath is an act of will. And this goes on for hours. From the cross, you speak 7 times. You ask God to forgive the soldiers doing this to you because they don't know what they are doing. You promise the criminal dying next to you that today he will be with you in paradise. You look down at your mother Mary standing at the foot of the cross, and you make arrangements for her to be taken care of. You cry out the opening words of Psalm 22. my God, why have you forsaken me?" Which is both a cry of genuine human anguish and a scripture so familiar to the people listening that they would have recognized it immediately. After 6 hours on the cross, you say, "It is finished." You bow your head and you die. A soldier confirms your death by driving a spear into your side. The Gospel of John records that blood and water flow out, a detail that physicians note is consistent with fluid having built up around the heart and lungs, a consequence of the traumatic stress your body endured. You are taken down, wrapped in linen, placed in a sealed tomb. Roman soldiers are stationed outside to guard it. The people who wanted you dead want to make absolutely certain you stay that way. The third day, and the world that changed. On the first day of the week, before sunrise, a group of women go to the tomb to finish preparing your body with spices and oils. They are worried about one practical problem. The stone covering the entrance is massive. Who is going to roll it away for them? They arrive and find it already moved. The tomb is empty, not ransacked, not robbed. The linen burial cloths are still there, lying exactly where a body would have been, folded neatly. The body is simply gone. What happens in the following 40 days is documented in multiple independent sources. You appear to Mary Magdalene in the garden near the tomb. You appear to 2 disciples walking on a road to a village called Emmaus, walking with them for miles, talking with them before they recognize you. You appear to 10 of the 11 remaining disciples in a locked room. A week later, to all 11, including Thomas, who had refused to believe until he could see for himself. The Apostle Paul, writing within 25 years of the events, records that you appeared to more than 500 people at once, and pointedly notes that most of them are still alive at the time of his writing, meaning anyone who doubted could go and ask them directly. Then, 40 days after the resurrection, on a hillside in Galilee, you gather your disciples one last time. You give them what becomes known as the Great Commission. Go into all the world, make disciples of all nations. And then Luke records, you are taken up, and a cloud receives you out of their sight.
Look how fast it goes.
2 angels appear beside the stunned disciples and ask a
Careful
question
now. Don't let him
that
get
might
away.
be the greatest understatement in history. Why do you stand here looking at the sky? There is work to do. Those 11 men, the ones who ran away in the garden, who hid behind locked doors, who were too afraid to be associated with you at your trial, those men go on to turn the world upside down. Every single one of them, according to historical record, preaches openly, refuses to recant, and dies for it. People will die for things they believe to be true. Nobody dies for something they know is a lie. Within 3 centuries, the faith that begins with 12 ordinary men from Galilee becomes the official religion of the Roman Empire, the same empire that tried to execute it into silence. Today, more than 2 billion people practice Christianity. The calendar most of the world uses is built around your birth. Hospitals, universities, and social welfare systems across human history trace their origins to people inspired by your teachings. The most translated book in human history tells your story. Artists, composers, writers, and architects have spent 2 millennia trying to capture something of what you were. And it all starts in a feeding trough in Bethlehem with a teenage mother and a carpenter and a world that tried to erase you before you could take your first steps. You were a refugee, a small-town laborer, a man without a home who said he had nowhere to lay his head. You never wrote a book. You never commanded an army. You never held political office. Your public ministry lasted somewhere between 1 and 3 years. You died at approximately 33 years old, executed as a criminal by an empire that considered you irrelevant. And no one who has ever lived has left a deeper mark on human history than you. Now you know what it felt like. Now you know who you were.